Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Bolin. Thank you all for joining me. Unfortunately, we've had another shooting in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, I believe. And according to the article, as I was reading this article, it literally began to update right in front of me. Now, the heading of the article, when you go to the description box and you read the heading, it would say 3 dead, including the shooter. But as you read the article, the article updates as you read it. And now it's confirmed that I think there are 5 dead, not including the shooter. The shooter apparently killed himself. So unfortunately, we have another mass shooting. Now, according to the article, this shooter was looking for a doctor. This took place in a medical facility in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he was looking for a doctor. And in the process of looking for this doctor, he began to shoot other people. Okay. And this is very, very unfortunate. And I know that this is a very disheartening bit of news, but I have to cover it. I have to cover it because I am seeing, and we are all are seeing, an increase in this kind of activity. You know, now here's the thing. I'm not going to really read anything in the article because it's a very short article. And the information I've just given you is basically the summation of it. Then I'm going to leave a description of the article in the a link to the article in the description box below, and you can go and read it on your own. But that's basically the information that you need to know at this point. What I want to talk about is the fact that there's going to be an increase in this kind of activity, I believe, in my personal opinion, during this summer. I shared this information with a friend of mine. I said, unfortunately, we are going to see an increase in mass shootings. And I'm not talking about this gang-related shootings and stuff that's going on in Chicago, although that is something that needs to be covered just as well. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mass shootings where people are just walking around with rifles or guns and just shooting up a bunch of people indiscriminately without any real motive or reasoning. We're going to see an increase in that. Now, here's what I want to talk about in this video. I talked about this in a previous video, I believe, in reference to the Buffalo killer who traveled 200 miles to Baltimore. Was it Baltimore? No, it's Baltimore. Buffalo, obviously. He traveled 200 miles to take out innocent people. Now, according to the article and according to the news sources, this was a race-related incident. I think there was much more to it than that, but that's a whole nother story, and I digress. And we saw that take place. 10 people were killed. Then we saw the situation with the school incident. 19 children were killed, 2 adults, I believe. Correct me in the comment box below if I've got those numbers wrong. But prior to the school shooting, we had a shooting in a church. I can't remember the state nor the city, but it was it was an Asian church. I believe these were Koreans. And a guy comes in, gunman comes in, shoots someone, he kills someone. Someone in the church had a gun, they killed him. So we're seeing an increase in this kind of activity. The question is why? Because evidently the mainstream news and the government, i.e. the radical Democrats, are not going to address the reasons why there is an increase in mass shootings. What they're going to do is attack this whole idea of gun control. I've already talked about that. I'm not going to go over that. That's, to me, that's ignorant and it's stupid, and that's a political agenda they're trying to push. I'm not going to even go over that. I've already gave my opinion about that. I don't want to hear nothing they got to say about it. I want to get at the issue of what I personally believe is going on. Now, I mentioned this in the video with the Buffalo killer. I'm going to mention it again. I personally believe, based on my studies and from the research of others such as Russ Dizdar and Paul McGuire, and you guys can look these individuals up. Paul McGuire, he's a minister and a world-renowned privacy expert and minister. And he has written numerous books on mind control and MK Ultra program that was initiated by in the 1950s. And Russ Dizdar, who has incidentally recently passed on. He was also a Christian minister, and he had been conducting these, so to speak, like crusades for decades, looking for what he called SRA victims. SRA is an acronym for satanic ritual abuse. And he was looking for these, he would go around all over the country looking for these individuals because he felt that's what God had called him to do. And he would go around looking for these individuals and praying for them and getting them the spiritual and psychological help that they needed. And he came to find out that many of these people were programmed. They had a multiplicity of persons. I know this is dark information, but we got to get at the root of this. What's going on here? And Russ Dizdar began to find out that many of these individuals had multiple personality disorder, something that's not talked about that much, and that some of these personalities were perhaps shooters, killers, witches, you name it. They were a conglomeration of different personalities that had been basically programmed to act out a certain event when the handler behind the scenes initiated it to be so. In my opinion, based on the readings of Paul McGuire, based on the readings of Russ Dizdar, I believe, and others, I believe that this is what's going on right now. Unfortunately, there's going to be more of this kind of action going on. The other source, the other reason that this could be is that these individuals that are committing these mass shootings could be on some kind of mind-altering drug. Now, the program shooters when they were being programmed during the 1950s under the control of this particular governmental group, the governmental group did issue a certain kind of drug, and you know what that is. Not going to say it here, to these individuals to basically alter their minds, make it easier to program these personalities into them, and then send them out to do certain things. This is oftentimes known, they often gave this a name known as the Manchurian Candidate. Actually, there was a movie that was made in the 1950s called The Manchurian Candidate based on that reality, based on that type of program. But getting back to this, these particular drugs could be what's causing these individuals to commit these mass acts of shootings here. It could be a mind-altering drug that they're taking that's causing this kind of action. But whatever the cause is, we got to get at the root of the cause. The answer to this horrible problem is not gun control. Anybody with any sense knows it's not gun control. And I wish people would wake up and see what's going on. I believe that the Democrats, the far-left Democrats, are taking advantage of this for what I believe to be nefarious reasons. Has nothing to do with protecting you and I. Now, having said that, let's get back to this program shooter situation. I believe that this is what's going on. Now, have you noticed something? Some of you that are familiar with this aspect of history. It's interesting to me that in the 70s and 80s, the big issue in the 70s and 80s was serial killers. Right? What did serial killers? I mean, those were the decades of all kinds of serial killers. Son of Sam, the Night Stalker, Ted Bundy, Henry Lee Lucas. All these serial killers was coming out and just killing up a bunch of, just killing dozens and dozens of people. And in the 70s and 80s, this was the big thing. Then all of a sudden, it stopped. It stopped. And all of a sudden in the 90s, we merged into the mass shootings. I think one of the first ones was the Columbine situation, right? Kids going to school, shoot up a bunch of young people. All of a sudden, from that point on, it became mass shootings. Something funky going on here. You mean to tell me, this is just a theory that I'm developing, you mean to tell me that in the 70s and 80s, these serial killers decided to stop serial killing? Or could it be that the news is not reporting it? I don't think that's the issue. I think all of a sudden it stopped because a serial killer situation would be something that the mainstream media will be reporting. But they're not really reporting. They're reporting these mass shootings. Why? Because that's the big thing now. We move from one crisis to the next crisis, to the next crisis, to the next crisis. I believe all these crises are designed to break down the mind and the resistance of the people in order to better be able to manipulate them. It is a mind control technique. Pain, torture, and hypnosis. Those are three aspects. According to Paul McGuire and Russ Dizdar, but particularly Paul McGuire, stated that in the process of mind control, it was pain, I believe pain, torture, and hypnosis. Oh, no, pain, drugs, and hypnosis. I'm not going to go into the detail of that right now because it would take too much time. But you put those three processes, you put those three aspects into place, and you can control a person's mind and manipulate them and break them down to be anything you want them to be. So going back to that, the 70s and 80s, we had this upsurge of serial killers, and all of a sudden it stopped, and then we merged in the 90s to mass shootings, and that has been what it has been for the last few decades now. Mass shootings. What's going on here? I personally believe that these individuals are programmed killers. Now, how we as American citizens prepare for this, we arm ourselves. For those of us that are Christians, we know to pray. We know that the Bible talks about we're among the last days. We're getting closer and closer to the arrival of the Antichrist. Yes, I believe in that. I know that's, but I do believe in that. I believe the prophecies are coming to pass faster than most people could imagine. Everything is converging. So as a Christian, to those that be watching this that are Christians, you know, if you know Bible prophecy, you know this stuff is coming to pass right before our eyes. But I believe that we as American citizens have to prepare ourselves and arm ourselves. Get your guns, learn how to shoot, do what you need to do, because the government is coming after that. They're trying to push this gun control, and it's best to get your guns now before they pass these laws and you are left a hapless victim to these mass shooters. I'm not trying to push fear, but look, let's be realistic. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you better able to prepare yourself for what's coming. Good things are coming on the horizon, but it might get worse before it gets better. In the meantime, let's prepare ourselves for what may come this summer. That's all I'm saying. But unfortunately, this is what had happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My prayers go out to those who have those family members who have lost these individuals in this another unfortunate mass shooting. My prayers go out to them. What do you guys think about this mass shooting? What do you think? I've given you my opinion on what I think is going on, and I think the solution may be. What are you guys' opinions on this? Leave your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button. Share this video and subscribe. God bless you all, and see you again on another Black Conservative with Ryan Boland.